righty, let's get into it, shall we? Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Kiorkof, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for, I guess, for those of you who are still drafting, I guess August 31st of 2024. One of the final live streams that we will do prior to anything related to week one of fantasy football and henceforth. Hope you guys are all doing well. Again, over the course of the last couple of days, we've talked about some full PPR rankings. We've talked about some sleepers, some league winners, some players that I enjoy drafting in every circumstance in which I have an opportunity of doing so. But today, we're going to focus on your guys' questions. Anything that you have related to your league, your upcoming drafts, your teams, let me know in the, of course, live chat. Do include any sort of context in regards to scoring format. If you're playing in a keeper league, I did already see some questions in regards to, hey, I'm playing in a keeper league. Should I keep, Laporta or this player? Like, what's the rules there? Can you keep Laporta 3 rounds, from where he's being kept this season? Or is it just 1 round? Or can you keep him there every single, any context to these decisions, any additional scoring formats, all that kind of jazz will make my life easier. And then subsequently, I get to you guys the answers you need prior to your drafts or prior to the season beginning. Again, we are just a couple days away from kickoff between the Chiefs and, of course, the Baltimore Ravens. I'll be live streaming on that Thursday. Prior to that Thursday, of course, we'll have rankings already put out for all positions. On Friday, we will also be live streaming next week, and Saturday and Sunday. So there's going to be a little bit of a streak of streams coming coming down the way. But either way, hope you guys are doing well. Let's get to answering some of these questions really quickly before I remove this off the screen. As it currently stands via Underdog Fantasy, because again, there is so much college football being played tonight. They do have a potential offer that is available to everyone. 0.5 total yards in terms of Jalen Milroe. He's the starting quarterback of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'll probably go ahead and put together a pick'em slip at the end of today's episode in regards to including this into the slip. But for those of you who are interested, again, check out Underdog. All that kind of information regarding my 2024 draft guide, the rankings, all that kind of jazz prior to your draft is in the description. Thank you. Okay. So let's go ahead and bring up the YouTube live chat. Let's move myself out of the direction, and let's get to answering some of these questions. I did see BZ, thank you. Always with the positive comments every time. Why is it so cranked? Okay, whatever. We'll go right here. Actually, you know what? Daniel, you made it past. I'm going to go ahead and get to Daniel's question right here. So this was the question that I was talking about. It says, am I insane for considering keeping Jaylen Warren as a 16th round keeper over Laporta as a 9th round keeper? Yes, I would consider you to be crazy. My other keeper is Achane in the 13th, and I know I'll get Bijan as my second pick. Yeah, I'd keep Laporta. It's not even a question at this point. Jaylen Warren could end up being like Austin Eckler in the future, but it's going to take Najee Harris to no longer be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers for that to happen. And I don't know if we're going to have that anytime soon. So as of right now, yeah, you got to keep Laporta, you got to keep Achane, keep it moving. All right, Juana, or Joe, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Jauna? I don't even know. I'm dyslexic. Moving on. Good afternoon. I have Collins and London as keepers and have a second pick in the draft. Breece Hall is a keeper. Okay. Should I draft Bijan Robinson if Christian McCaffrey is taken? You have Collins in London. I mean, if you could start 3 wide receivers in this league, I'd say you take a wide receiver. Lamb, Tyreek Hill, etc. If that is not the case and you'd like to just get a running back advantage, yeah, why not? Let's take Bijan there. I don't have an issue with that. Last round pick. Who am I taking? Bucky Irving or Luke McCaffrey or Brandon Cooks? I'm not taking Bucky Irving unless I have Rashad White and I'm trying to handcuff it. Luke McCaffrey could get himself more utilization, but it's going to take a while for him to find himself the role within that offense. Whether or not he ends up playing within the slot position is going to take a little bit of time for him to get there. So for right now, I'd probably take Brandon Cooks. Hope he has a couple good games. Maybe, in fact, you can swap that off by trading him after the first couple weeks if he's able to score consecutive games of touchdowns. Let's see here. Drafting tomorrow at 6:15 a.m. You're a psychopath. I don't know what else to tell you. That's 6:15 a.m. Yo. Okay. The man, the myth, the legend. Thank you, Jesse. I had your thoughts on this trade. DJ, as in, I'm assuming it's DJ Moore, because I don't know if there's any other DJs, in Walker for Kupp and Montgomery. I'm weaker at wide receiver. DJ Moore and Walker for Kupp and Montgomery. In my opinion, it is a very even trade from my perspective. Especially if it's a full PPR. I have Kupp ahead of DJ Moore. And then I have Walker ahead of Montgomery. And I think the differences between the two even it out to where it's like a which side do you prefer to have? Personally, if you want to get the Cup Montgomery side, I don't have an issue with it. That's your prerogative, and I think it's a pretty even trade across the board there. There's no collusion or anything of that nature going on here, Oaks. Freddie says 6 point per passing touchdown. Who do I start, Caleb or Kyler in week 1? Again, week 1 questions. I don't even know who. Okay, actually, no, I do. I'm lying. Okay, sorry. The Bears take on the Tennessee Titans, and the Arizona Cardinals take on the Buffalo Bills. I think it's in Buffalo. But that being said, I'd have to do a little bit of research. Tennessee secondary did get some major improvements this offseason. So for right now, I'd probably just roll with Kyler. Yeah, I'd probably just roll with Kyler as of right now. Dynasty startup rank JJ, Jamar, CD, St. Brown. I mean, I think it's, if Jamar signs, it's going to be relatively close. It'll probably be JJ, Jamar, CD, and St. Brown, mainly because Dak Prescott's future is still in question as to whether or not he'll be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. So I think the order which you have it is fine. If you want to put CD Lamb ahead of Jamar Chase until Jamar gets signed or whatever, I think that's fine. It doesn't really bother me one way or the other. I have a draft in 2 hours and another tomorrow. Best of luck. Yo, Andrew, what would you, preferred bench spots? Okay. What would be your preferred number of bench spots in a 10-man league, full PPR, 1 quarterback? I think the preferred amount is 5. The thing is, you don't want to have too many bench spots, because if you do, it promotes the idea that you don't have to trade and you can survive because you have so much depth at your fingertips on your bench. So if you were playing in a league where there's a bunch of players that really aren't trade active, it may be smart to just have 5 bench spots, 2 IR spots. If you were playing in a bigger league in which you start 3 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, 2 flex, I'd say 7 or 8 bench spots in that circumstance. But considering the situation of a 10-man league on top of it, considering everybody's kind of going to be stacked already, I'd venture to say 5 is safe. All right. Before we continue, there's a couple super chats that were sent in, so let me go ahead and address those. Ryan sent in a super chat. Thank you very much, Ryan. Greatly appreciate it. It says the following. Let's go ahead and let's move this over just so I can read this in one shot. Here we go. Ryan says, okay, why did it get cut off? No. Okay, I have to go find it now. Dang it. There it is. Okay, it says 12-man full PPR Superflex keeper league. Drafting at the 5th spot. Who would you pick as your keeper? Gibbs in the 3rd, Pacheco in the 9th, or Laporta in the 4th? Can keep next year in the same spot. Yo, okay. Keeper league, considering all those options, you have the 5th overall pick. I have a hard time. Okay, here's the thing. Gibbs in the 3rd, technically, is, pretty good value, especially in a super flex. Oh, in the 3rd, let me think about this. Okay, strategically, right? Considering you don't have a quarterback and it's a super flex format and it's a 12-team league, you want to have your early picks out to your disposal. So if you're going to utilize a 3rd-round pick for Gibbs, you probably need to spend one of your first 2-round picks on a quarterback and then a wide receiver, then subsequently after dip back into the quarterback position within the 4th round. So if you plan on going in that route, I think it's perfectly fine. Me, do I want to take Gibbs in the 3rd over Laporta in the 14th? Yeah, I'll take Gibbs there. That's fine. I think it gives you a better chance of winning, ultimately. The thing is, the 14th round number is really appealing, for sure. The issue is, if you don't keep Gibbs there, you're not getting him. He's probably going, he's gone in the 2nd round, and considering you're the 5th pick, I don't know if it'll come back to you. If you have a strong feeling that it could return to you in the 2nd, I'd keep Laporta in the 14th, but that's the thing. It's just a matter of determining what is going to return to you, and I don't think that's going to happen. Solomon Reyes sends in a super chat, says, remember my 14-team PPR with Christian McCaffrey, Lamar, Mark Andrews from the 2nd spot. I traded Christian McCaffrey and Dobbins for Achane, London, and Aaron Jones, yay or nay? You traded a 1st-round pick and a 14th round pick, almost, maybe 12th, I don't know, for Achane, which is a 2nd, London, who could be a 2nd, and Aaron Jones, who's probably like a 5th. We'll see. I mean, ultimately, you get more depth, clearly, because Dobbins really isn't anything. It just seems like, Solomon, this is a 3-for-1, and I'll take the 3 side. Paul Allen sent in a super chat. Thank you, Paul. Paul says, in a 12-man half PPR league, starting Waddle or Watson. Already starting Tyreek Hill. Yeah, you'd start Jalen Waddle. Under the assumption, of course, he gets a full healthy practice and we're good to go by Sunday, you know. Kiwi Sports Mage sends in the following. Half PPR, trade Brian Robinson / Devin Singletary for Khalil Shakir. I have Josh Allen. My running backs consist of Kamara, Achane, Singletary, Jaleel McLaughlin, J.K. Dobbins. Wide receivers are Amari Cooper, Devontae Smith, Roma Dunze, and JSN. So would I be willing... Considering your running back depth, I'd be okay moving Devin Singletary for it. But again, it's, you know, high risk, high reward. I think I'm willing to move Devin Singletary for it. Brian Robinson has to stay on roster, though. I think that's just kind of the no-brainer of the bunch. Josh Campbell, thank you very much for the super chat, says, full PPR, 10-man league. My wide receiver one is Lamb, followed by Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, Rashad White, Christian Kirk / Michael Pittman Jr. in the flex. Pretty much Michael Pittman is your flex. Trade offer currently stands as Nico Collins and Derrick Henry, and Malik Neighbors for Lamb and Kirk. Yeah, take it. Take it. Yeah. Look, the way I see it, Derrick Henry, Nico Collins, like that's a second and a third round pick there. Malik Neighbors is a fourth round pick. So you're trading away your first for a second, third, and fourth. And I think based on just the valuation and what you're getting in return, fantastic. The thing is, yeah, no, I mean, I'll take it. I will. Give it, yeah. There's no way I'm not taking that. I could understand keeping Lamb. He's a 20-point per game player, but getting Nico, Henry, and Malik just makes your roster that much stronger. Like you will legitimately have an all-star team. It'll look like you drafted in an 8 or 6 team league while everybody else drafted in a 10-team league. Let's hear. Abdullah sent in a super chat. Thank you, Abdullah. Says, in a 10-team full PPR, my team consists of Christian McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cooper Kupp, Waddle. I like that already. Great. Then we have guys like Singletary, Brooks, Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr., and J-Mo. Thoughts on Kupp and Waddle and Walker for CD? No, I'd never send 3 for 1. I'd never do that. Yeah, no. I'm good with what you have. You have a really strong roster. McCaffrey, Walker, Marvin, Kupp, Waddle. Like the base strength of those 5, I mean, are incredible. And I wouldn't send 3 of them for 1 player. Just the fantasy point loss that you will get on a per week average is going to be significant enough to where it's just not worth the trade at all. Alpha, thank you. You know what's funny, Alpha? Every time you comment on the newest video and you say, I disagree, or I strongly disagree, or whatever it is, people actually get angry. Like the pitchforks come out and they don't understand it. So keep doing what you do, Alpha. I appreciate it. But just expect people to come after you. And I can't control them. Every now and then I'll come in and say, guys, it's an inside joke. Everybody relax. Like put down the pitchforks. But ultimately, they're going to come after you. Benny G sent today super chat. Thank you, Benny. Benny says at 6 a.m. on Father's Day Sunday. Is today Father's Day? No, it's not. No, it's not. There's no way, right? Father's Day. June 15th. What are you talking about? Oh, I guess technically Father's Day, because we're drafting teams, you know, that could make sense. That I could correlate. But it also could be Mother's Day. Yeah. And it honestly, for me, this weekend, especially tomorrow, once like all these drafts take place, tomorrow's my Christmas, right? So holidays really just move around, I guess. Anyway, Benny G says, thanks, Go. Thank you very much. Half PPR, Taylor or Saquon? Always a good day down under. Thank you, Benny. Appreciate it. Shout out. Between the two, Taylor, Saquon, I prefer Taylor. It's not to say that Saquon isn't as capable of scoring as high volume of fantasy points. I just prefer Taylor. I think, well, yeah, I prefer Taylor primarily because I know that I can trust that he's going to get a good amount of that goal line utilization. For Saquon, it is still sketchy as to whether or not that tush push / brotherly shove is still active and, as good as it has been in the past. Big Rich sent in a super chat, says 14-team PPR Would you do Achane and Nico Collins for Garrett Wilson? No, I would keep Achane and Nico. I think you're selling too much of your team, especially in a 14-team league in which your roster is already very thin, considering how many teams are in that overall scenario. So as of right now, I'd keep what you have. Keegan Yap says, rate my full PPR team. We have Jalen Hurts, JJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., Puka, Kamara, Connor, Jake Ferguson, Tank Dell, Chris Godwin, Jonathan Brooks, Corum, Trey. Okay, so of the available players you have here, JJ, Marvin Harrison, Puka is a ridiculous start in a full PPR, especially if you're able to start 3 wide receivers in this league. Congratulations, you've given yourself a significant advantage because you have 3 of my top 12 wide receivers already off the rip. Then you're able to continue to still have really good running back depth with guys like Kamara, first and foremost, a great PPR fiend on that. And then also James Conner with Trey Benson already handcuffed. Jake Ferguson, which again, of all of the quote-unquote discount tight ends, my favorite. You have Jalen Hurts, so you have top 3 potential upside at quarterback. And then you still have additional depth with Tank Dell and Chris Godwin. Now, I would have loved maybe a little bit more running back depth outside of guys like Jonathan Brooks, because again, he is going to miss a couple weeks, but he should be back before bye weeks start to hit, and you'll be fine. That's a really good looking team there, Keegan, especially full PPR with the wide receiver focus. I love it. Rockout says, worst team QB is Purdy, Tua. My running backs are JT Walker, Stevenson, Dowdle, Algier. Wide receivers are Puka, Evans. Is that right? Puka, Evans, Higgins, Jameson Williams, A.D. Mitchell, Brandon Cooks. My tight end is Pitts. Yeah, how did this team come to be? You went Jonathan Taylor and Puka to begin with. Then in the 3rd round with Mike Evans. Then in the 4th round, probably went Kenneth Walker, then Kyle Pitts. Look, I'm not going to say this team is objectively bad. You've got playmakers. If they live up to their expectation and to their projections, I don't think you'll have an issue. It's just a matter of, obviously your quarterback is at a discount, and Kyle Pitts has to deliver because you've spent a pretty penny on him. If he's able to, Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker are great starting running backs. Puka, Evans, and Higgins are great. Kyle Pitts is your X factor. If he pulls it out, you'll be good to go. Benny G says, it's Father's Day in Australia. Is it really? Okay, well, so be it. How do country... Okay, anyway, I'm not even going to get into it. It's fantasy season. Getting back to answering questions. We have James Porter. Thank you, James. Cincinnati Super Chat says the following. Full PPR. My running backs are Cook and Jacobs. Very well. Again, 2 of the top 15. Fantastic. Then you have Tyreek, Harrison, and Neighbors. Great. Continuing on with strength at wide receiver. Then you have Pat Freiermuth the tight end. You took a discount there, but of all of the potential options that you went for, it's one that is going to have a high volume of targets, especially considering there really isn't too much target competition within the offense. So that's great. I have Rashad Rice. Sorry, that's Rashi Rice, but again, your autocorrect did away with that one. So you have Rashi Rice on the bench. Should I trade Rice or Neighbors for Mark Andrews? I do. That's a really good question. I wouldn't trade. Here's the thing. So, considering you have Cooks, Jacobs, Tyreek, Harrison, Neighbors, I want to still have depth at wide receiver. So, like, whatever your next wide receiver is, if it is a functionable player to when bye weeks do show up, they can get in the mix. I don't mind moving Rice for Andrews just to solidify your tight end and give you that advantage every week. But if you don't have additional depth of wide receiver and you're starting 3 wide receivers in this league, wide receiver in a flex, or potentially if it's a 3 wide receiver league, at that point I wouldn't be able to do it. But if you have additional depth and it's not just Rice as your primary number 1 wide receiver, you have other guys on your bench, then I definitely consider it. Powerful AD3 says, what's up, GOAT? Thoughts on this current lineup? Richardson, which again is great. CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams. Okay, fantastic. 2 top 12 wide receivers. You have Pacheco and Connor, Ferguson, Devontae Smith, Elliott, San Francisco defense. I don't really care about kickers and defenses, even though Jake Elliott was great last year. San Francisco defense should be a little bit better this year. Obviously, their defensive coordinator change should be able to make a little bit of a difference here in comparison to what they were doing last year. Their secondary was falling apart on multiple occasions early last season. But nonetheless, as for what you have, taking a little bit of a discount on RB2 and tight end, I'm happy with it, especially considering it's I'm assuming it's some sort of PPR. Having Adams, Pacheco, CD Lamb, Devontae Smith, Richardson as like your pull players, your pillars of your team. That's a pretty strong squad there. All right, Brother Man says, thoughts on my 14-team league. Man, a lot of you play with 14 teams in the league, which is crazy. I literally could not find 14 people to play with that I could trust to keep up with me in fantasy. I couldn't. Let's see here. 14-man, 2 flex league. Stroud, Chase, Nico Collins, Kyron, Ramondre, Komet, oof, Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins, Brian Robinson Jr., Keon Coleman, DeMario Davis. We have Chubb, Bucky, Irving. Any moves? Yeah, we need a second tight end on roster. That's what we need. At this point, I'd probably move on from Bucky Irving unless there's something that I don't know about Rachaad White, and I'd go looking for the potential of getting a second tight end on roster because, starting Komet every week is going to hurt. Carlos Douglas sent today's super chat. Thank you, Carlos. My draft's on Monday. It's a 14-team league, full PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, 2 running backs. Achane is my 10th round keeper. What position should I attack in my draft? Considering the 14-man circumstance and the fact that you already have a keeper running back in the 10th, I'd probably heavily focus on wide receiver early and make sure, the strategy that I legitimately might use in your circumstance, I'd focus on wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback early, and I'd get Mostert. And that'll be my RBs. I'd literally start Mostert and Achane every week as your RB 1 and 2, and then have 4 stud wide receivers within the first potential 6 rounds, and a quarterback and a tight end. And just hope that in a 14-team league, you might have to wait on quarterback and get someone a little bit later and then grab Mostert earlier, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. If you're like, hey, listen, but I actually want a good running back, fine, that's fine. Just get one in the second round. Grab a wide receiver in the first, RB in the second, wide receiver in the third, probably tight end in the fourth, wide receiver in the fifth, quarterback in the sixth, flex in the seventh, something like that. All right, thank you. Infinity and Bijan sends in a super chat. Says, start 1, DK, Rashi Rice, Neighbors in a full PPR. Thanks, Andrew. Goodness gracious. Listen, it's not even Wednesday. Wide receiver Wednesday is a thing for a reason on this channel, okay? It's not even Wednesday yet. Let's see here. What do we want to do with DK Rice and Neighbors? Who the heck does Seattle play week 1? Week 1 NFL. Seattle plays against... Who the heck is Seattle? The Broncos. Pat Surtain. I'd have to do a little bit of research on that one. Outside of that, I'd have to do research. Right now, I'm thinking Rashi Rice. Yeah, that's what I'm currently thinking. It could variably change over time, which it probably will. By the time I get to, wide receiver Wednesday, we'll see. All right. After Carlos Douglas, we had Ramblin' Man. I don't even see your question, Ramblin' Man. It didn't get attached to it. So maybe I can see it in the live chat. Jeremy Melendez, thank you very much for the super chat, says, I have the 9th pick in a 12-man full PPR, and I want a good quarterback and tight end. Very well. Is it crazy to take Laporta in the 2nd or 3rd and Hurts and or Stroud in the 3rd and 4th? Okay, Jeremy, so you have the 9th pick in a 12-man league. The earliest you should be selecting a tight end is in your 3rd round. The earliest you should take a quarterback is probably that 4th round. Considering where you're selecting, the quarterback / tight end addressing should be in that 3rd/4th. That's what I'm thinking. In the 2nd, it's far too early. Unless Laporta is going to score legitimately 280 fantasy points and break a record for the most, full PPR fantasy points scored by a tight end. Unless he's going to break the record. The 2nd round is a little bit too early, especially considering you are the 4th pick of the 2nd round. Let's hear Johnny send in a super chat. Says Javonte Williams or Zamir in the 8th, Rice or Higgins in the 5th. I could justify Javonte in a full PPR, but if it's a half or standard, it's probably Zamir. Rice or Higgins in the 5th, I'd rather have Rice right now. Primarily because of Higgins' overall injury history, throughout time. Especially if it's a full PPR, it just makes it easier to make that decision. Okay. Let's see here. Mason sent in a super chat. So Jordan Love, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, George Pickens, Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Ferguson, Addison, Spears, Justin Fields on the bench. What you think? CeeDee Lamb into Josh Jacobs. 3rd round pick is probably Evans. 4th is Kenneth Walker. 5th round pick, I'm getting lost here. I don't know how many teams are in this league, but if your 5th round pick is Pickens, that's where we lie. That's your X factor at that point, because I'm looking at the board of what you have on your team. George Pickens is your X factor. Everybody else is solid. I mean, any team that I have CeeDee Lamb with is great. Josh Jacobs is going to be fine. So will Mike Evans. So will Kenneth Walker. So will Jordan Love. But yeah, George Pickens is your X factor. Depending on how he pans out, will pretty much determine how this draft ends up looking in the next couple weeks. Okay, so what I wanted to do really quickly is find Ramblin' Man's question, because let's see here. Ramblin' Man says, in a half PPR, I have Kincaid, Hawkinson on the IR. Should I trade Diggs, Njoku, and Christian Watson for Metcalf? Diggs worries me, and I have to make some room for a kicker. Sure. I mean, again, if you've got to make room for a kicker anyway, and you're going to drop one of these players, let's go for it. I mean, again, if you already have Kincaid and Hawkinson, so Njoku is really just a trade piece for you at this moment. Christian Watson, again, is not. It's probably would have been the guy you dropped, so it's pretty much a Diggs for Metcalf, and you're just getting the upgrade. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that, Rambleman. Even though I have said in the past, I don't like 3-for-1s in your circumstance, considering you still need your kicker. Yeah, you're kind of positioned to where you have to kind of make that trade. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Did I get lost here? I think we took care of everybody in that row. Boom. Okay, cool. Infinity Bijan, we took care of Mason. God's Gang sent in a super chat. Thank you. Says full PPR. Okay, so we went Hall, Pacheco in the 1st and 2nd. Etienne fell to me in the 3rd. Wouldn't pass on the value. Got Olave in the 4th. London. Wait, what? Wait. Okay, Etienne fell in the 3rd. Couldn't pass on value. Got Olave in the 4th. London in the 5th. Murray in the 6th. Neighbors in the 7th. Listen, God's Gang, you didn't need to tell me what your roster was to know that that was a monster team. Congratulations. Your league mates played themselves, and you're going to have a great year. Pacheco, Hall, and Etienne with London and Olave as your 1-2, and Murray and Neighbors. Like, what are we doing? That's ridiculous. That's one of the best teams I've seen in the last couple weeks. It's Kafka says, hey, Andrew, I don't know if I panicked, but I traded Kyron Williams for Jacobs with McBride and I dropped Wicks for Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. pickup's fine. I don't understand Kyron for Jacobs with McBride. Is that so? You traded Kyron for Jacobs and McBride, correct? If that's the case, congrats. I have no problem with that. I think it's a solid trade. Jose L says 12-team full PPR, 1 flex, Hurts, Gibbs, Warren, Chase, Waddle, Flowers, McBride. Okay, very well. Of the available, here, let me throw this back up on screen really quickly. Of the available you have here, Hurts, Gibbs. So your RB2 is either Warren or Chase Brown, or is that Jamar Chase? It's probably just Warren as your RB2, which I don't love. But then you have Chase, Waddle, Flowers, McBride, very well. So you have advantages everywhere. Your RB2 is the only thing that really is in doubt. You have your bench consists of Godwin, Chase Brown, Corum, Udunze, Bright. Okay, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. Warren's going to have to figure it out, and or Chase. You took positional advantages elsewhere, and I'm okay with it. I'd have loved maybe one more potential bench. Well, yeah, you have right there. Okay, you're fine. I don't have an issue with this team, Jose. It definitely is a a seriously hero RB strategy, but I respect it. I think you executed it very well. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Speak Your Piece, who says, should I trade Jamar Chase for JJ? I have Tyreek Hill as my number 1. Jamar contract situation makes me nervous, or should I wait? Yeah, you could trade it. I don't have an issue with it. If nothing happens by tomorrow, I think... Listen, here's the thing. The Cincinnati Bengals are in a very tough spot. They have to pay him. I guarantee you Joe Burrow is knocking on the door of management saying, get my wide receiver signed. Like, hello, you guys are giving me all this money. I can't do my job unless my best receiver's out there. So they're going to get it done eventually. As to how long that's going to take, we'll have to wait and see. If you're really nervous about it, trade it. Otherwise, me personally, I have teams with Jamar and I'm not even moving. I'm stonewall at this point with it. John S. sent in a super chat. Thank you, John. Says, Andrew, what do you think on my 12-team full PPR league? We have Kyler, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, Evan Ingram, Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I mean, listen, you have 2 top 12 running backs. That's clear. You have a top 8 quarterback. You have 2 top 12 wide receivers. You've got a top 8 tight end. I mean, really, there's nothing that you've done that's, I mean, I guess the whole question is your flex is going to be the determination as to whether or not you find that ultimate success. You have Deontay Johnson, you have Rome Odunze, you have Jaden Reed, all 3 potential capable top 36 wide receivers within the league. You have Jerome Ford, who early on in the year is going to find himself initial success, so you could throw him in there on matchups that are quite favorable to him. You have Justin Herbert, which again, I don't think you need, but again, just in case something happens to Kyler, you're insured. Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid team across the board there. Where are we at? Brendan Miles in the chat says, how do we feel about Mike Williams this year? I think it's very dependent on what kind of Mike Williams we get. Typically for the wide receiver position, post ACL isn't as brutal as, running backs typically experience. So we have seen wide receivers in the last couple seasons return from ACLs and find immediate success. I mean, I can clearly remember just a couple years back, Chris Godwin in that kind of a scenario. So considering that, Mike Williams could be a solid option and their number 2. The thing is, I don't know how good that Jets offense is really going to be. I'd like to say that, yes, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are going to get so many opportunities that they're going to be set and they're good to go because they're associated with Aaron Rodgers additionally and the offensive line improvements. But depending on how much utilization Mike Williams gets is kind of going to determine his upside. Because if he's only going to get a couple deep balls a game, it's going to be tough. Yes, he has Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, but I don't know if I'm definitely not throwing him out there for a while. You can leave him on your bench, but you have to have a pretty deep bench to be able to afford having him there. Pierre in the chat says, I made an Underdog with your code last year. Can I deposit on the same account for this year's draft guide? So for clarification, just so we're all on the same page in regards to how this works. So if you've ever made a first-time deposit via Underdog, you are not eligible. So if you've ever done that in the past, prior to, August 1st, 2024, right? Whether it's been with somebody else's code or no code at all, if you've ever made a first-time deposit, not eligible. But if you've made let's say you made the account with my name, but you didn't make a deposit last year. If you were to make a deposit today, yes, immediately you would get an email with probably within the hour from Underdog that includes my draft guide. And then by, I would say, the next couple hours after I'm done with this live stream, after that is kind of sent to you, your email will then be relayed to me, and then I will send you the updated rankings as of today, and you'll be good to go. Again, guys, for those of you who are trying to get the draft guide, the rankings, all that kind of jazz, like I've mentioned in the past, right here, you guys have heard the spiel. Again, if you guys want rankings, not only for your upcoming drafts, but for the remainder of the season, you can check that out if you're not eligible based on, of course, your current location or potentially, you've already signed up in the past via my code, somebody else's code, all that kind of jazz. Patreon's also available via Patreon. All of this is available, all the same content. You can ask me unlimited questions. All the information is down in the description for those of you interested. Check it out. And if that's something that you're interested in, fantastic. I appreciate the support. Otherwise, no problem. The videos are made on the channel for a reason. Thank you. Okay. Matt sends in a super chat, says, in a 10-team half PPR one keeper league, do I trade Lamb, Spears, and next year's 5th round pick for Marvin Harrison Jr., Derrick Henry, and a second next? Wait, wow. Okay. In a keeper league. So basically, you're never going to be able to keep Lamb anymore. But your keeper in the future will be Marvin Harrison. You get a major upgrade with Derrick Henry, and you get a 2nd round pick next year for a 5th. I don't mind the trade as long as you're looking to try to win this year. Like, you don't make this trade unless you have the team that surrounds Marvin Harrison and Derrick Henry to win it all. If you look at your team and you're like, this isn't a championship team or it doesn't feel like one, then you don't make the trade because it may hurt you in the future. But if you're like, this is a team that I could legitimately win with, and getting Derrick Henry now and not having, Lamb in the future, is going to be the benefit, then yeah, you definitely take it and you roll with it and try to, win it all this year. Thank you, Ramon Salazar. I appreciate it. All right, in the chat, we have Matthew. Matthew, who says the following. Sup, man? Let me know. I'm in a 10-team full PPR league, 2 flex, second pick overall. My team ended up with Josh Allen, Etienne, Najee Harris, Tyreek Hill, Drake London, Kincaid, Kupp, Ridley, Pittsburgh, Butker. My bench consists of Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy, Brian Robinson Jr., Gabe Davis, and Chuba Hubbard. So, okay, listen. When you have Tyreek Hill, Drake London, Kincaid, Josh Allen, Kupp, Etienne, very exciting. Najee Harris, not the sexiest pick, but he'll get the job done. Additionally, worst case scenario, you also have the potential of Brian Robinson Jr., who will fill in there, or Chuba Hubbard for the first month of the season. So I have no issue with that running back rotation. Ridley's a great overall flex. So is Xavier Worthy. I mean, this is a solid team. In a 10-team league, heavily focusing on wide receivers of the caliber of Reek, London, and Kupp definitely did you some justice. Rob Monahan says, in a 14-team full PPR, I'm at the number 7 spot, and I draft tomorrow. In my mock drafts, I typically draft Jamar, Harrison, Achane, Andrews, Richardson, Mostert. Thoughts? I don't have an issue with that. No issue at all. As long as you're comfortable, and I mentioned this earlier with somebody who is keeping Achane. If you're comfortable starting Achane and Mostert as much as I am this year, you go for it. Like, I'm very comfortable in my leagues. If my RB1 is Jahmyr Gibbs and my RB2 is David Montgomery, I'm happy for the remainder of the season. That I can live with that. Same thing with Achane and Mostert as the 1-2. Just make sure you get Jalen right. All right. We caught up on the super chats. Never mind. Another one was sent in. Chef New York says, I have the number 1 pick in a full PPR draft tomorrow. Who should I take? I'm torn between Hill and Christian McCaffrey. Also, best strategy for the rest of my rounds. Listen, who you take at number 1 is totally up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with, I guess you'll figure it out 15 seconds before you click the button. As for the potential strategy, henceforth, after the fact, in the second/third, depending on what you get in the first, if you go RB in the first, that second/third round should probably end up with a wide receiver for sure in order to balance the roster. I could also justify taking Sam Laporta at the beginning of the third. So starting like McCaffrey, Olave, Sam Laporta could be a start potentially. Then additionally going into the fourth, once the fourth comes back around, going wide receiver, and then probably quarterback, and then just waiting on running back till like the 6th or 7th. I think you survive there if Christian McCaffrey is your number 1. If not, if you start Tyreek Hill, second round probably ends up being RB. Third round, mostly a wide receiver. 4th/5th, you can address tight end and quarterback. 6th/7th, probably that second RB, that third wide receiver. Okay, Kafka says, would you trade Olave for Deebo Samuel? I definitely consider it. If it was a standard league, I'd be okay with it. If it's half PPR standard, I think it's relatively even. I think full PPR, because of Olave's higher upside in terms of total receptions, he takes the cake there. But for the other leagues, I think that'd be relatively even. Italian Lover says, Andrew, would you take Puka for Hall? Would I trade Puka for Hall? Yes, I would trade Puka for Hall. I'd much rather. 11 times out of 10, I'd rather have Breece Hall over Puka Nacua. Alyssa says, JT or Barkley? Thanks, Andrew. At the moment, again, I'm very comfortable having either of the two. I think it's a matter of how you're going to build your team. Like, for example, if I'm in a scenario in which I'm in the first round and I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with any of these running backs coming back to me, A.J. Brown is my selection. If I'm picking A.J. Brown, I have to pair him with Jonathan Taylor. I think I'd be a little bit... I think I might be crazy if I was to stack multiple Philadelphia Eagles, especially if it closes the door potentially. Because if I take A.J. Brown in the first and Saquon in the second, and then in the third round, I take Jalen Hurts, at that point, I'm just in a fourth round Devontae Smith. I could do that. That's definitely a build you can construct, but I think it'd be a little bit too much. So at the moment, I'd probably say best plan of action is just taking Jonathan Taylor there, especially at the back end of the first or beginning of the second. Kobe in the chat says, rate my team 10-team league full PPR. Aaron Rodgers, don't like it. Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, DK Metcalf, Waddle. Okay, so listen, your wide receivers, tight ends, I don't think you need Laporta and Travis. And I don't love the Aaron Rodgers selection there, especially in a 10-team league. But hey, to each their own. I think the rest of your team is strong, though. Steve says in a half PPR, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Burrow, Brees, Jacobs, Nico, DK, Diggs. Having Nico and Diggs on the same team is going to kill you. I'm telling you, slowly but surely, it is going to drain your lifeblood. If you guys are going to invest in a Houston Texans wide receiver, just pick one of them. Do not pick 2. It may, in fact, kill you over the course of the season. Please check with your doctor to see if your heart can handle it. If not, because if you bench one of them and they go off and the one that you started goes for 2 points, again, it's going to hurt. So that's typically why you don't want to have those kind of scenarios. But as for the rest of your team, again, it's really solid. Brees and Jacobs are great. DK, Nico, Ingram, Burrow, Eckler, Dobbins on the bench, Godwin, Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a solid team, but that's the only thing that I can see really plaguing us this season. As we continue on, Enrique says, in the 9th, Ridley, Deontay, or upside with Thomas. I'd rather just have Ridley or Deontay. I like Brian Thomas Jr., but again, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to finally find his role within the offense. I don't think he's like Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors to where he has an immediate role as the number 1 of the offense come week 1. Let's see here. The professor says in a 12-team full PPR, Mahomes, Achane, Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin. Noah Fant is your tight end. Don't love it. Already scared. Aaron Jones is the flex. We have Ramondre, Odunze, Javonte, Trey Benson, Luke Musgrave, Khalil Shakir. Listen, I think the rest of your team is really good here, Professor. The issue is your tight end position. Noah Fant, Luke Musgrave scares me more than anything that I could potentially imagine. I've seen teams recently from people on Patreon, and if you're listening, there was someone who sent me their team. It was a massive 14-team, 16-team draft. They ended up with Noah Fant and Mike Gesicki. Those are the worst case scenarios. But this being said, I will throw it out there. Every season, there's about 4 to 5 tight ends on average that are tight end ones for the first time ever in their career. So there is going to be somebody this season that comes off of the waiver wire, for those of you playing in a 10 or 12-team league, that even if you don't have the greatest tight end right now, keep your fab, keep your priority, because eventually you're going to find that guy and they're going to take over. We've seen it year over year. I mean, I can literally give you a breakdown. Let me go find the list here, shall we? Let's find this list. Where art thou? Here we go. Let me just give you an understanding as to what I'm even talking about. Okay, so last year, right, the tight ends that technically came out of nowhere and were first-time tight ends within their given season. McBride, number 1, right? Jake Ferguson, number 2. And, I mean, Laporta was drafted by a lot, but Jake Ferguson, McBride, great, fantastic. But Laporta is also in that combo. The year prior to that, Taysom Hill, Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth. Then we had guys like 2021, Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox. The year prior to that, Tunyon. We had Logan Thomas, Hayden Hurst. Year before that, Waller, Andrews, Higbee, Henry, Goddard. The tight end position every year has based on the averages, about 4 per season that come out of nowhere, and they're going to be great. Hopefully, one of the guys you have on roster fill into that kind of a role. Robert sent in a super chat. Robert, your question is the following. 12-team, half PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown. Very well. My team consists of Bijan Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Eckler, Ray Davis, Bucky Irving at running back. We have Puka, Ridley, Jackson Smith, Myers, Adonai Mitchell, Sam Laporta. Any tips? Who's your quarterback? You're playing in a 6 point per passing touchdown league, and I don't even know who your quarterback is. That's the issue. Otherwise, running back solid, wide receiver could have been better. I don't know what happened. I mean, I guess you went Laporta early, which kind of dictated that. But yeah, I'm curious who your quarterback is there, Robert, because that really is going to be the difference maker considering the format of scoring. X Franklin says, full PPR, who should I start, CJ Stroud or Richardson? Who'd you draft first? Whoever you drafted first is the one you take into the unknown of week 1. Take Flight Mike 23 says 8-man full PPR, 2 flex. Draft is tomorrow. Very well. I plan on drafting wide receiver in my first 4 picks. When should I address tight end and quarterback? I'm drafting from number 6. So if you're playing in a full PPR 2 flex league and you can start 4 wide receivers every week, if you want to start 4 wide receivers, that's fine. I think it's going to be determined on whether you take a whether you take a tight end or running back in the 5th, depending on what running back is available. If you're going with that 0 RB strategy, you could get away with it. But I also think like if somebody that has PPR upside is available in the 5th, you might as well take them as a running back. Then grab a tight end in the later rounds while getting quarterback in the 6th. But again, I think it's just going to be a matter of what's available at the time. Jesse G says, in a 12-man half PPR league, we have the following. Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Brown, James Cook, very well. Alvin Kamara, okay. Ridley, Adunze, JSN, Ferguson. Yeah, I mean, listen, your team is very much so running back influenced. Like Taylor, Cooks, and AK or Alvin Kamara are going to be able to do pretty much the heavy lifting on this team. Like A.J. Brown obviously is a top 6 receiver in a full PPR, half PPR. So at this point, as long as your running backs stay healthy, you should be in a really good spot. Not sure who your quarterback is. Wasn't mentioned here. Oh, yeah, you have Cousins. I think you'll be okay. I don't love it, but I think you'll be okay. The only reason I don't love it is because change of scenery, but additionally also doesn't have the mobility that other quarterbacks have to get those easy fantasy points every week. All right, let's see here. Octavio sends in a question. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says the following. 10-team, full PPR, 1 flex. We have Josh Allen, Marvin Harrison, Waddle, Brees, Gibbs. Okay. Already. DJ Moore. Yeah, I'm good. Neighbors. Yep. Great team. Listen, you don't really have to. It doesn't take much. When you have Allen, Waddle, Marvin Harrison, Brees, Gibbs, DJ Moore, Neighbors, like, you're good to go. That starting lineup, because it's a 10-team league, is a set it and forget it. Like there's no variability as to who your starting lineup is. You're starting those guys because they're your studs, and we're rolling. What does it say? Anthony Richardson and Kincaid overall number 1 potential. Scary Terry ceiling ? Anthony Richardson could finish as number 1. His passing game would need to improve significantly. Kincaid is the number 1 overall tight end, definitely within the realm of possibility. I wouldn't say it's impossible. Scary Terry's ceiling is definitely top 15, though. I think that's where his ceiling is. Robert says, just sign up with Underdog. Got the draft guide. Looks great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Your rankings should come in after the stream. And yeah, after that stream, I can send the email in and we'll be good to go. Seth says, Christian McCaffrey for sure. Should be my pick at number 1, right? Full PPR. Listen, Seth, if you're already doubting whether you should take Christian McCaffrey, and you already let the doubt seep into your mind, kind of feels like you know that you don't want to take him. Like, I'm not going to tell you to take him if that's not what you want. Like, again, here's the thing. If you guys are playing in a fantasy league this season, and this is your only fantasy league, and there's nothing else, and it's literally just this league, take the players you want. Who cares? You win, you win. You lose, you lose. It happens every year. There's only one winner in 11 or 12 or however many losers, right? Take the players you want. Take the players that you're willing to live and die by, in this scenario. Your season will hang on their backs. So as of this moment, if you're not so certain about it, don't worry about it. Me, yes, I would take Christian McCaffrey. And I'd also grab Jordan Mason in the later rounds because I'm not too comfortable either, but hey, we'll take it. Robert says, you already sent it, brother? Got them very shortly after. Thank you. Glad to hear. Yeah, I sent out an email already earlier today for those that signed up via Underdog. I sent it around, I want to say like 12:30ish this afternoon, so like an hour ago. Maybe it was earlier. Doesn't matter. Either way. Glad you got that, Robert. Best of luck on your upcoming drafts. Let's see here. I'm seeing a lot of teams, guys. Listen, what does it say? TK says Taysom Hill or Brock Bowers rest of season, half PPR. I'd rather have Brock Bowers, assuming he's healthy. Taysom Hill, again, is literally right behind him, like on his tail, as like my number 13 and a half PPR at the tight end position. So I could go either way, but personally, Taysom Hill has value, but is very much so touchdown dependent. And again, it's always sketchy. So for right now, probably just Brock Bowers. Okay. Bombay Blitz says Hall, ETN Jr., Jacobs. So you already have 3 stud running backs. You have Josh Allen as well, Mark Andrews. And then here we go. Your wide receivers took a terrible dip, but hey, it's the sacrifice you made. You tanked Dell, McLaurin, Keenan Allen. Honestly, Bombay, if all of those hit, all those receivers end up doing what that you hope them to do, you could be in a really good spot there because the rest of your team is studs of Hall, Etienne, Jacobs, Josh Allen, and Mark Andrews. Personally, I'm not, it's gonna be an interesting week 1 to see how it all transpires, but let's hope for the best. How do we feel on Henry? Henry should score the most touchdowns amongst all running backs this season. Should. I have him projected out for 12. So I have him at a fraction, so it's like 12.4 touchdowns. So it's a combination of rushing and receiving, but I have him for 12. So 13's definitely in reach. But he should probably, 12 rushing, not even receiving. Now, if he's to outproduce it, it wouldn't surprise me considering how many rushing touchdowns the Baltimore Ravens scored last year. So I think he's in line for something between like 12 to 16 rushing touchdowns. Now, if we get a Raheem Mostert out of nowhere this year, here, guys, tell me if my logic is crazy, okay? Just hear me out. I'm going to go pull this up really quickly, just so like I can talk through it and I have actual reference. So last season, right, we had Raheem Mostert pretty much come out of nowhere, and he was incredible, right? The guy scored, 18 rushing touchdowns last year. Fantastic. 30 years old. The year before that, were there any 30-year-old running backs that came out of nowhere and cooked? Let's see here. Not really, right? Everybody else was like, everything was relatively young across the board. But back in 2021, we had a Cordero Patterson year where he finished as RB9. Could this year be Gus Edwards' year? Like, what if Gus Edwards is that old running back that just out of nowhere just cooks? Thoughts? Is it possible? I'm beginning to think it might be, especially if the Chargers are way better than everyone anticipates. It could be. All right, let's see here. We had another question that came in from Robert. Robert, I don't see your question attached. If you can, just type it in the chat and I'll get to it, Robert. Until then, John Koziar says, PPR, drop 2, Samuel, Shakir, Polk, Leggett, Dortch, and Wright. I would drop Polk and I would drop Dortch. Keep the rest. Thank you. Hater Maker says, top 5 defenses. I'm drafting now. Sure. Let's go ahead and get through that really quickly. So let me go pull up my draft rankings. Top 5 defenses. Jets, Ravens, Browns, Cowboys, Chiefs. Boom. Thank you very much. Thoughts on Kyren Williams as a punt returner? He'll be fine. Don't stress it. Listen, here's the thing. The thing about Kyren Williams, the implication is if you return punts, then the team is saying, hey, we believe that there are other running backs that can get in the mix, because you don't ever see Derrick Henry returning punts. Is he capable? Sure, I'm sure he is, right? But the whole thing is you don't ever want your starting number 1 running back to be on a play in which there is a potential for an injury of somebody hitting him below the legs when he's trying to look up and catch the ball, right? So just off of safety alone, it doesn't make sense to me. But the biggest issue is primarily revolving around when that statement was made by McVay. Okay, the reporter that asked him the question specifically is a primary Rams reporter. She asked him, "Hey, like, what happened? You guys cut all the punt returners. Who's going to be your punt returner?" He's like, "Oh, we're gonna leave the duties to Kyren." Great. I did some research with this reporter, looking at all of her reports from this summer, this training camp. She has said on multiple occasions that the first team offense has a lot of Blake Corum in it. There is a huge rotation going on there. That's what scares me. It's not the punt return. Punt return is the prior implication that there might be something going on. And then the reporting that is done from an actual Rams reporter that is, I've followed for like the last 3 years, because again, I'm a Rams fan, continues to be, something of worry for me. Anyway. Neighbors are worthy. Start week 1. Neighbors. Drop Taysom Hill and pick up a potential RB handcuff with the in the range of, what does that even say? Steal? I don't even know what that means, Scott. Maybe I'm just confused, but yeah, I don't know what that means. If I can get you to get my question from the super chat, thanks. Speak your piece. I thought I answered it, but yeah, let me scroll back up. Speak your piece said Jamar or JJ. Yeah, listen, I was saying earlier, if you're like super worried about it, trade it. Don't stress. There's no reason to stress. Me personally, I'm keeping Jamar on all the teams that have already drafted him on. I'm not moving him. I will wait patiently. But if you're worried about it, you can move. It's not an issue. So I'm not going to tell you one way or the other to do it. It's just a matter of how you feel, and I don't know how you feel on the matter. Let's see here. Browner911 says, I have Godwin as my flex. Any moves to make or we like him? Yeah, we like him. That's perfectly fine, especially if it's a full PPR. If it's a half PPR standard, we're in shambles. But if it's a full PPR, I think you're in a good spot. K Wood says, AJ Brown or Gibbs. I have Hurts as my keeper. I'd rather have AJ Brown, especially if it's a full PPR. Javonte or Singletary week 1? Javonte. Not that one. I had another one. You had another one? I see it. Thank you, Speak Your Piece. Says, can you provide your opinion on JJ this year? Do you think him or Chase can both have good years fantasy-wise? Yeah, of course. Listen, here's the thing about Justin Jefferson. I think amongst all wide receivers outside of Tyreek Hill's speed, he is the most talented wide receiver in the league, right? Sure, he doesn't have the best overall quarterback play, but again, like we witnessed last year, his quarterback play is irrelevant. He is that talented of a receiver that he will find himself open in so many scenarios, and the distance between him and his defenders are so vast because of his route running ability that Sam Darnold will still be able to get him the ball on multiple occasions. And like I've mentioned over the course of the last couple of days, Jefferson should start the year averaging somewhere between 12 to 15 targets a game because Addison's still banged up. There is no Hawkinson. And really, there's nobody else in that offense that I'm sure is going to get himself a healthy stream of targets. Like the tight ends, Oliver or Munt, they're going to rotate. Naylor or who's the other wide receiver 3? It's no longer Osborne. It's like Brandon Powell. He's also dealing with an injury. Like Jefferson's going to come out of the game gates hot. Chase is going to come out of the gates slow. Depending on which way you want to go about it, I think they both end up still very similar in terms of fantasy point output. And the only reason I think Jamar Chase is going to start slow is because, again, he hasn't been practicing. He's not suited up. And he also may not even play week 1 contract negotiation. So for now, JJ, I wouldn't have him at 5 unless I felt very strongly about him. There's not a number 5 ranked player on any of my boards that I don't feel strongly about. So we're good to go there. Pollux, thank you very much, says, what do you think about Purdy, James Cook, Pollard, Elliott, Javonte Williams, Chuba Hubbard? Okay, then we have Jefferson, Nakua, Reed, Laporta. So you start Jefferson, then you go Nakua, then you go Laporta, then you go Andrews in the 4th. So you went double up on tight end, which is a little crazy in my mind. The only reason I think Mark Andrews is a little crazy going double up on tight end there, Pollux, is because once you don't start Andrews in the tight end position, once you're starting him in the flex position, you have to compare him straight up value-wise to receivers and running backs. And comparatively, in the 4th round to the remaining players there, I think he's a proper selection when he is started as a tight end because of the positional advantage, because everyone has to start a tight end. But once you have him as a flex player, I think he's worth far less in that kind of circumstance. So I think that in itself, a little bit of a sketchy selection. Hopefully, again, it's still going to pan out. But the rest of the way, I mean, still being able to, I mean, let's see here. After Nakua, you still have that. Pollard is your RB2. I'm okay with that in a full PPR. That's not an issue at all. You have Elliott, Javonte, which again could still rotate in depending on matchup and or how it proceeds. But that's the only thing. That's my only like primary thought on that matter. AJ Brown or Saquon? I'd probably just take AJ Brown. Mason Davis says, how to draft 10-team full PPR keeper team at pick 3. Pick 3 overall, I'm assuming you're getting a wide receiver. So you take Tyreek Hill. You follow it up with most likely a running back in the 2nd under the assumption that someone of the caliber of Etienne, Achane, Henry, Jacobs, Pacheco, Kyron is available. Then in the third round, you could probably go with a wide receiver once again. If you don't like what's available there at wide receiver, you could always go Laporta. That's not an issue. And then depending on how you go from those first 3 rounds, it'll kind of inform you as to what kind of positional needs you need to go about and address them accordingly. Again, most likely or typically, I'd like to have a advantage at tight end rather than quarterback, but vice versa also works. If you want to take a quarterback in the third like Josh Allen, you could always do that and then wait on tight end. Ray says, rate my team in a standard super flex. We have Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson, already looking good. Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, looking better. Adams, Devontae Smith, even better. Then McBride and Pickens. Listen, Ray, I'm going to tell you first and foremost, if my super flex team tomorrow looks like that, I'm going to be thinking I won the whole league already because that is a monster squad off the rip. Who are your top 10 tight ends? What's the scoring format, JC? If you tell me the scoring format, I'll read it up down the list right now. Brian S. says, what is your favorite player in the 8th round? 12 team. I'm struggling picking players every time. It depends on what. Okay, so who are the players in the 8th round? Because okay, so Brian S., my question to you is what's it called? What format are you using? Are you using ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo? Which format are you using so I can utilize their ADP to understand what you mean by an 8th round pick? Because what I have ranked as 8th round selections may not be like, if I go to my full PPR rankings and I go to when does the 8th round begin? What is that? 7 times 12 is, goodness gracious, 84. So 85th pick to 90 something is, okay, so let's see here. So 85 and beyond, right? Like I'm looking at players like Brian Thomas Jr., Jerome Ford's, Eckler's, Jaden Daniels, Joshua Palmer's, Roma Dunze's. It depends on what kind of a format you play in accordingly. Christian sends in a super chat. Says, Keenan Allen or Christian Watson as my flex week 1 and why? I don't know. I'm gonna tell you honestly, I have no clue right now because I haven't even done the research. I'm still in draft mode, guys. I'm not even in week 1. I will know all these answers without a doubt by Thursday. That's not even a question. But as of today, I have not even begun strategizing for week 1 running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking, okay, who do the Rams play week 1? I know that. But if I was to try to guess who, actually, I think I know who everybody plays. Seattle takes on Denver. Arizona takes on Buffalo. San Francisco takes on the Jets. Miami, I have no clue who they play week 1. Green Bay is against Philly, which again, that's a pretty good matchup, mainly because Philly's secondary was awful last year. Chicago takes on Titans. I'd have to go check and see who the Titans slot cornerback is, their nickel. Once I figure out who their nickel is, then I can determine whether or not Keenan Allen is actually a good play in week 1. Like these are the things I have to do. Once I get there, we'll be good to go. Christian, I'll remember your question later for the week so that we're in a good spot. JC says, PPR, great. So my top 10 tight end rankings for a full PPR. Number 1, Laporta. Number 2, Kelsey. Number 3, McBride. Number 4 is Andrews. 5 is Kincaid. 6 is Pitts. 7 is Ingram. 8 is Kittle. 9 is Ferguson. 10 is Njoku. A little bit of a couple adjustments here and there, but ultimately same players, just different rotation of how they come off the board in my mind. Let's see here. Jake Thompson says full PPR. Joey Burrow, Pacheco, Ford, St. Brown, Collins, Kincaid, Neighbors, Chase Brown, Brooks, Worthy, Mike Williams, Matthew Stafford, Tyrese Hill. Would you trade St. Brown for Dell and Henry? No. I keep it as is. I don't think you need the running back as much as you think. If Chase Brown or Brooks or Ford, I mean, if you have Ford is going to sit there for like 8 weeks, I think you're fine. I don't think I make that move. Okay, guys. So, I think I took care of that. That's done. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, perfect. What's your opinion about, what is that? PPFD? What is that? Point per first down? Do you have any tips? Okay, so point per first down leagues require an additional bit of research. Now, when I say research, I mean like you need to go and literally purchase a premium subscription to like PFF or one of those systems that tell you which players had the most first downs. Now, luckily you have me, so you don't really have to go pay for it. Andrew can go look up, like, okay, so at running back, point per first down is irrelevant because your running backs are going to get first downs with those big runs. As for receivers, you're typically looking for the receivers who are going to get those points because they're the favorite target on third down and that are going to get themselves in that rotation of additional potential points there. So when I look at, okay, players that led the league in first downs last season at wide receiver, again, it's still the top tier guys. We're talking about Tyreek Hill number 1, Lamb 2, St. Brown 3, AJ Brown 4, Puka Nacua 5, DJ Moore is 6, Jamar Chase 7, Brandon Ayuk 8, Devontae Adams 9, Stephon Diggs was 10, Olave's 11, Adam Thielen was 12, Keenan Allen was 12 as well tied, Mike Evans at 14, Collins at 15. Like, typically the top tier guys are the top tier guys. So very rarely is it going to audibly or variably change because of this. Like, when I'm looking across the board, it looks correct. There are players that are way higher than they, like Justin Jefferson somehow had 51 first downs and the guy missed all that time due to injury. Like, some of these guys just ball out way past their prime or their potential in this circumstance. But like Chris Godwin was 15, Keenan Allen was 12, and Adam Thielen was 12. Those slot wide receivers find themselves a lot of success with those first downs because majority of their overall targets are closer to the line of scrimmage, and they have the ability to make a guy miss and, of course, get that first down. So when your ADOT is 15 yards down the field, sure, you're going to have opportunities of first downs, but typically you want to maybe lean towards the guys that are closer to the line of scrimmage, are going to be the slot receiving options. Devontae Smith, hello, those kind of options. But otherwise, your studs are your studs. You keep them rolling. Derp says, hi, Andrew. Tank Dell or Stephon Diggs? I'll take Stephon Diggs right now. Okay, where are we at in terms of... Julian sends in a question. Julian, there wasn't anything attached to it. Maybe you can type in the live chat and I can get to it. There it is. I found it. Half PPR. I have the third pick. Going for Brees. Very well. Who do you like as the wide receiver pick? In the second round, in a half PPR league, if somehow Drake London is available there, Devontae Adams, I'll take him. That's probably what I go in the second round if it's available. If not, you can get spicy and go after other alternative options. I think that Brandon Ayuk could be available there. Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, those kind of players. Michael says, rate my team 3 wide receiver keeper league. Starting lineup is Love, Henry, Najee, Mostert, Hill, Brown, Waddle, McBride, Cooper. Yeah, considering you're starting, considering you have a 3 wide receiver league and you have Hill, AJ Brown, Waddle, McBride, and Amari Cooper, you're in a really good spot. Like, sure, I don't love the idea. Actually, having Najee / Mostert as your RB2 is really good, especially when you have Henry as your number 1. This is a really good or really well put. What do you have? You have Jordan Love. Yeah, this is a really well put together team. Like, across the board, Michael, you have no worries at all. Like, sure, your running backs aren't going to get PPR work, but it doesn't matter. Jack sends in a super chat, says 12-man standard. My quarterback is Stroud or Stafford. My running backs are Zamir White, Pollard, and Ford. My wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Wilson, Evans, Deontay Johnson, Hollywood, Myers, McBride is the tight end, Jets defense, Butker is the kicker. How did I do 1 through 10? I'd say this is a potential... If it's a standard league, like legitimately it's 0 points per reception, I think it's like a 7 or 8. I'd say no rookie numbers, 7.4. Skylar, thank you. Appreciate it. Gibbs says, hey, Andrew. How did I do on my 12-team full PPR team? We have 11th overall pick. We have Barkley, Marvin Harrison, Nico Collins, DJ Moore. Nice. CJ Stroud, Montgomery, Mostert, Keon Coleman, Njoku, Daddle. Yeah, I have no issue with that team at all. Would you trade Godwin plus Brooks for Rashee Rice? If you have enough running back depth, I don't have an issue with that. That's fine by me, especially if it's a full PPR. Actually, it has to be a full PPR. Otherwise, I would have an issue with it. Okay, really quickly. So let's close that. Let's close this. So we've been here for about when did we start streaming? About like 12:50. So we've been here for about an hour and 10 minutes. I do appreciate you guys rolling through. Again, a couple reminders. If you guys sign up via Underdog, you can take advantage of that. You know, honestly, who knows college football more than I do? Because quite frankly, I don't watch a lot of college football. So who's got the play for me today? Anybody? Because I'm willing to just let it roll objectively. But what I mean by let it roll is, I mean literally let it roll. So as of right now, you can take this Jalen Milroe going higher, which is an automatic. They're giving you a freebie, right? Which we want. I think the maximum you can play on it is like $10, maybe. But either way, who's the next player? Or should I just like, wait, what is this? You can only choose one of these. Okay, very well. College football. What's the play? Who's got the play for me? Anybody? Like, I don't know any of these players, guys. UNLV versus Houston, like, what are we doing? Or do I just take like an easy like 0.89 higher and just like cash in quick, you know, how you doing? Turn $10 into 30 and just keep it moving. Like, or, you know, honestly, it may be smart for me to go and just put it with an NFL play for next week. How many plays do they have already? Oh, they've got a lot of stuff going here. Wait a minute. Hold up. Let me cook a little bit here. Everybody give me a second. Oregon's QB. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let me let you guys cook here. Hold up. Who's Oregon's QB? You can't search teams? Let's see here. Let's scroll down. Michigan, Texas, okay. UCLA, Here we go. What is that? ASU. Oh my God. Look how many college games are USC, FSU. There's no Oregon. What's going on here? Someone said Ord. That's got to be a joke, right? I don't even know what this guy's saying. Anyway. I have no clue. Marcus Mariota, quarterback for, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to go make an NFL play real quick. Dylan Gabriel, is he in there? Nope, nothing with Dylan. Nope, no Gabriel. He maybe already started playing. McConkey or Keenan Allen in a full PPR in the flex? For week one, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable with Keenan Allen rather than McConkey. Look at these numbers. These are some interesting ones. These are definitely some interesting numbers. Sheesh kabish. Jamar Chase has really high, but it'll get canceled if he doesn't play. Russell Wilson. The fact that they, oh man, okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. Is it early to make these plays? Because I'm looking at some of these numbers and I'm like, what are we doing? What's up, Nathan? How's it going? Way TV sends in a super chat. Says PPR, David Montgomery, DK Metcalf, Mostert for Saquon and Ayuk. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I'll take the Saquon Ayuk side. If you've got enough depth at running back to be able to give away two and get only one in return, I don't have an issue with that. It's fine by me. Is there a Alvin Kamara reception total? Longest reception, fumbles. No, if they had to receive like actual receptions, I'd immediately jump on it. What else we have here? Xavier Worthy or Rice? This season, Kobe, I'd rather have Rice. Question, Andrew. If you could date only one NFL, okay, good job. Well done. Over 11.5 receiving yards on Stevenson. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're keeping an eye on it. I'm not jumping at anything yet. Christian McCaffrey point. Yeah, but look, that's the thing. Is McCaffrey even on here? Wow. Look at the dude. The multiplier is killed. So if I let's say for example, can I make $100 bet on this? No, it's max 10. So it'd be $10 turning into $21.90. That's literally what it is. But yeah, you're not wrong. That's kind of an automatic. You are not wrong. Okay. That's not bad. I'll probably go ahead and add more to this, but until then, be confident, Andrew. We won't judge. Good job, man. Good job, Dixon. That's funny. Let's see here. Where are we at? We had a question that came from Kafka. Thank you, Kafka. It says, for flex, who would I flex between Flowers, Brian Thomas Jr., and Shakir? Yeah, I'd rather just flex Flowers. That's for sure. Any feedback on Gabe Davis? I mean, look, here's the thing. There's a chance that he could end up being the primary receiver on that team. But there's no, I mean, look, here's the thing. He was good in Buffalo when they gave him ample opportunity. The thing is, there were many of games last season with Calvin Ridley where he was up and then he was down. He was up and then he was down. So as of right now, I'm thinking it's most likely a scenario in which that's probably going to be continued, case in this scenario. Diego says the following. Do you think it's a good decision to draft both Spears and Pollard? I don't think it's... No, I'd probably rather just have one over the other. Unless you know that an injury is coming, I'd rather just have one over the other. JC says, would you start Core in week 1? No, I wouldn't. What is the ceiling/floor of James Cook? Ceiling is top 12 again, just like he did last season. The floor, I think, is where I have him at, which is like 14, 15. I don't think the volume of touches that he's going to garner over the course of the season, it is going to be very difficult for him to get to a floor unless he gets injured. Okay, let's see here. Robert in the chat says, 12-team half PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown. My team is the following. Da, 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 da. Yeah, listen, Robert, I had answered this question earlier, and I had asked you, who's your quarterback? And I didn't get a response, but in terms of your roster as a whole, Bijan Montgomery is a solid RB1, RB2. Having guys like Puka as your, QB1, or sorry, your wide receiver 1 with Sam Laporta as your tight end 1 is great. Depending on who your quarterback is, really is going to be the biggest difference maker for this team, though. Jason sends in a super chat, says, flex, 1 point per reception, pick 1. Aaron Jones, Ford, McConkey, Gus Edwards. I mean, at this point, you kind of have to start Aaron Jones. Just off of overall investment. You drafted him to start him. Why would you sit him in week 1? Logan says, can you answer my super chat? Did I not already answer it? Where does your super chat didn't have the message attached to it, Logan. Let me go find your message. Says round 2, pick 14 overall, half PPR. If Saquon is not there, would you take Puka, ETN, HN, Marvin Harrison? I took Amon-Ra in the first round. Full PPR. Oh no, it's half PPR. Okay, let me look at these players. Puka, ETN, HN, Marvin Harrison. Let me go to my rankings and I'll tell you where I would go. If you start wide receiver in the first, I could justify going wide receiver once again in the second, but the likelihood is Puka, ETN, HN. So this is what it is, 12th. How many teams are in this league? Let me check again really quickly with Logan. 14 pick. If it's a 10-team league there, Logan, I don't mind taking Puka there because I know that I could still get a running back in the third. If it's like a 12-team or 14-team league or so, well, you have the 14th pick. So I think it's a 10-team league. If it's a 10-team league, I don't mind Puka there as long as you take an RB in the third. Otherwise, you just take ETN and you go for wide receiver in the third. Just depends on what you think will be available by that third round, based on your projection of how your league mates draft or how you believe they're going to draft. Angel sending a super chat. Thank you, Angel. It says in a 10-team full PPR, we have Josh Allen, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Achane on the bench. Why is Achane on the bench? Oh, your flex is Achane. Apologies. Bench consists of Worthy, Bowers, Meyer, Stevenson, Reed, and Keon Coleman. Yeah, you're looking good there. At this point, Allen, Breece, Henry, Rice, Dell, Achane. Yeah. Listen, I would have loved a little bit better potential starting wide receivers. Not sure what happened exactly here, especially considering, yeah, I mean, you only have, okay, there was no even mention of your starting tight end. So maybe that's a stud tight end, and that's kind of what's missing here, Angel. But I would have loved to have had a better wide receiver too. But if you believe in Dell and he's going to do it, then I don't have an issue there. Michael says, would you put guys like Prescott, Love, or Burrow over someone like Richardson in a 6-point per passing touchdown format? Let me check my 6-point per passing touchdown rankings. I have Burrow ahead of him. Yeah, I do. As for Jordan Love, no, he's still on the tail. He's still behind him. Nathan says, hey, Andrew, hope you're doing great. Superflex, my team consists of Stroud and Hurts, DJ Moore, Higgins, Harrison, Ridley, Najee, Kamara. Yeah, that's a pretty solid team. Listen, again, when you play in a Superflex and you've got 2 stud quarterbacks, and at least you've got 1 solid wide receiver and running back, but now in this case, you have 3 solid wide receivers, 2 solid running backs. Like, you're in a really strong spot there, Nathan. Your quarterbacks will carry you every week, pretty much. Okay. Let's see here. Angel says, my tight end is Kincaid. That makes more sense now. Yeah, with tight end as Kincaid, that's fine. Now I can justify why you built the team the way you did, and I have no issue with that. JC says, would you take any QBs early or wait for 5th or 6th round? I have no issue taking Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, I have no issue taking them in the 3rd. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson in the 4th. I don't have an issue with that. I just have to be confident with the team that I've selected prior to those selections, that if I've selected a running back, wide receiver, whatever order in the first 2 rounds, they've got to be strong enough players to where I'm like, I can survive with going Josh Allen here in the 3rd. If you go double up on wide receiver and you take Josh Allen in the 3rd, and then you're like, all right, well, I'm at the mercy of whatever is available at running back in the 4th, it becomes a little bit of a sketchier game to play. You're then at the mercy of the rest of your league on how they are going to approach the potential of, their running backs. Robert says, my quarterback is Mahomes. Then in that case, Robert, you're good to go, because Mahomes is my 2nd quarterback in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. In a 6-point per passing touchdown league, for Mahomes, I think he's a late 1st, early 2nd round pick. I don't know if you probably didn't even have to invest that much into him, but you still got him. Jersey Style says, in a super flex, Josh Allen is going to be a bust this season. Trust. Jersey, to each their own. I hope that's not the case, because if Josh Allen sucks, then everybody on the Buffalo Bills is going to suck. But that's the thing. That is why we play the game, right? There's all this speculation. There's all this projections during the offseason. A lot of things that we expect to happen are not going to happen. And a lot of things we don't expect to happen will happen. And that is the beauty of football. And that is the beauty of the waiver wire and why we make trades. But yeah, as of right now, hey, listen, you think he's going to bust? Some people think Derrick Henry's not going to score touchdowns this year. Everybody's got an opinion. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean they're wrong. We'll just have to wait and see how it transpires. That's the beauty. In about 17 weeks from now, we'll get all the answers and we'll know for sure. Banger sends in a super chat, says, PPR, which starting slot you value more? RB2 or wide receiver 3? Wide receiver 3. In a PPR, it's a wide receiver 3. Powerhouse says, think Waddle / Metcalf finish top 10 in a half PPR. Okay. In order for Waddle to finish his top 10, he's got to never miss a game. He cannot get hurt. In order for Metcalf to do it, he needs to score double-digit touchdowns. ROOD says, agree or disagree, Kyle Pitts will be the tight end 1 this year. I disagree. I hope so. I hope we get a little bit of variable change at the top of that conversation, but it's going to be difficult. Let's see here. Dragon says, start one in a 12-team PPR. Chase Brown or Jaleel McLaughlin. For week 1, I don't even know who. Let me think about this. In a full PPR, I'd probably play Chase Brown there. Gucci Han Louis Han says, my guy, full PPR. I got the 1.05 spot. What's the start? At 1.05, under the assumption that McCaffrey, Lamb, Hill, let's say nobody's taking Chase. Let's say Amon-Ra and Breece Hall go. And you're at, no, sorry. Well, yeah, okay. Let's say Amon-Ra goes at 4. You're at 5. You're either going Jefferson or Hall. Let's say you start Hall. If you go Hall in the first, you go double wide receivers in the 3rd and 4th. Probably tight end in, double wide receivers in the 2nd and 3rd. Tight end in the 4th. Running back in the 5th. Quarterback in the 6th. Flex in the 7th. If you do start with a wide receiver, if you take Chase or Jefferson, probably go RB in the 2nd, wide receiver in the 3rd. Tight end in the 4th still. Could address running back in that potential 5th round if somebody there is of value. Otherwise, take a quarterback there. Sergio says Prescott or Goff. I'll take Prescott. John Nichols says, okay, in a non-PPR, starting 3 wide receivers, no flex spots, 1 quarterback. How do I approach this draft? I think the best way of most likely going about it, considering there are so many running backs that are, okay, so like the running back that I would want in this specific league, if it's 0 points per reception, my RB2 that I want is Zamir White. So I'm probably in this league approaching by getting a hero RB early, getting my wide receivers because I can start 3 of them, guys that are certainly going to have high touchdown upside additionally, getting my tight end advantage, then going and getting Zamir White when the time is up for me to do so. But I'd probably not invest too heavily in RB because there's so many wide receivers that you're going to have to rely upon in this league, and I'd rather have the advantage there accordingly. Who will be the tight end 1? I mean, the assumption is Laporta. I have a hard time thinking he doesn't score 10 touchdowns this year. Like, I have a legitimately hard time thinking that. And the guy's going to probably have himself, I mean, considering at the back end of last year, he was also dealing with an injury. If he doesn't get injured, he could probably have 100 receptions this year. Like, he's going to be a monster. He's just too good. Coleman or Shakir on waivers tonight, half PPR. I honestly, either one. I prefer Shakir, but I'd rather just have at least one piece of that offense just so that I can have a chance of potentially having the number 1 of that wide receiver core. You are the Confucius of fantasy football. Yes, I am very confused right now as to what's going on. Thank you. Abe says, how does drafting wide receiver versus running back differ between PPR and half PPR, assuming higher premium on wide receiver, generally speaking? Also, will you be doing PPR overall video? Yeah, the PPR overall rankings video comes out tomorrow morning, probably around 10 a.m. As for the wide receiver / RB approach, depending on scoring format, in a full PPR, because of the additional premium that the wide receiver position gets immediately, and that there are some running backs that just really aren't heavily utilized in the receiving game, it does lean in favor of those wide receivers being highly valued in comparison. So what you will see in tomorrow's video in terms of top 50 overall ranked players, the wide receiver position is the vast majority of the top 25. So it's not a surprise. It's mainly just based on total points scored in comparison to the running back position accordingly. Faz says, hey, Andrew, what do you think about my starting lineup consisting of Richardson, Bijan, Kamara, Puka, Diggs, Kelsey, and Flowers? Good to go. Again, the X factor on your team really is just going to be Diggs. If he's wide receiver 2 potential, then we have no issue, and all sales are going in the right direction. Ferguson, top 5 tight end this year, easy. I hope so. But with the volume of tight end targets he had, especially down in the red zone, sheesh. Should have been top 5 last year, just didn't catch as many touchdowns as he potentially should have. Hey, Andrew, which 2 tight ends would you pair outside of top 12? I got sniped on the 3 and currently have Schultz and Jonnu Smith. If it's me, outside of the top 12, I'm pairing Fryer Muth with Taysom Hill. Now, that does require a little bit of an investment, but if you were to go a little bit cheaper and let's say you don't want to get those kind of guys, I would probably then lean in the direction of most likely I'd like Cade Otton and Jonnu Smith, or Cade Otton and Tyler Conklin, or even cheaper than that, Greg Dulcich, Ben Sinnott. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to keep really Gibbs or Brees Hall. I'd rather keep Brees Hall. I'm being offered Algier for Wicks. I get Algier. My wide receivers are Leggett, Reed, Marvin Harrison, Wicks, and Tolbert. My running backs are CEH and Frank Gore. Frank Gore what? Frank Gore Jr.? I'm thinking about countering. There's no way this is real, J2. That's not real. There's no way. No offense, brother, but there's no way it's real. John in the chat says, pick one in a PPR. Kamara, Devontae Smith, or DK, assuming I went wide receiver. Sorry, RB, wide receiver, wide receiver. How many wide receivers can you start in this league, John? If you could start 3 starting wide receivers, excluding your flex, I would probably draft Devontae Smith or DK. If you cannot, I'd probably take Kamara and just have him as my RB2 in a full PPR. Thoughts on T-Law, Kirk stack? I'd rather have T-Law, Evan Ingram stack. That's my thoughts on the matter. What's the earliest round you should take Deebo Samuel in a 10-team PPR league? The earliest round's probably round 3. I mean, I think that's where he's going to go, most likely. If I had to guess. How do we feel about Kyren Williams? I drafted him in the second round, and now he's returning punts. Should I trade him? No, don't trade him. You're fine. Listen, here's the thing. At the moment, yes, there is a lot of potential risk that surrounds him. There's a lot of questions that surround that backfield. Why would they have him return punts if he's going to be the starting running back? There's going to be... Listen, yesterday I was watching an interview with Blake Corum on the Rich Eisen podcast. Okay, Blake Corum, a former obvious Michigan running back. Apologies to all the Michigan fans. Michigan running back. Rich Eisen loves Michigan, whatever. They're gloating about their Michigan days, winning the Natty. It doesn't matter. He asked them straight up, the first question Rich Eisen asked him, how many touches do you expect to get per game this year? He says, I don't know. I might get 5, I might get 10, I might get more. All right. Well, you're probably going to get yourself somewhere between 8 to 10 touches per game. If the way that I think that Sean McVay is going to approach this offense with the offensive line improvements that they have made, my assumption is that Kyren Williams is probably going to get himself like 18 touches per game, and we're going to see Blake Corum between the 8 to 10 range. Does that hurt the upside of Kyren? Not technically, unless the goal line touches are taken. Because Kyron's still going to get his 18 to 20. It's not going to be out of, it's not disappearing. And maybe he returns a punt and saves our week, You never know. I doubt it. But anyway, his punt return stats last year weren't the greatest. Colby Parkinson is tight end 1, and we barely heard anything. Yeah, here's the issue. The Rams do not use their tight end when Puka and Kupp are on the field. If you go back to last season, I'll do it right now. It won't even take long. So if we go to tight ends last year and we look up Higbee. So last season, from weeks 5 through 17, okay? Let's see here. Okay. So from weeks 5 through 17, once Cooper Kupp returned to the lineup, very well, right? There was one game. Let's see here. 1, 2 games, 3, 4 games. 4 games in which Higbee had 5 or more targets. Every other game was 3 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets, 1, 3, 4, 3. That's the issue. Colby Parkinson getting 3 targets per game is not going to be a fantasy game changer. That's the issue. And we all know that Higbee, when healthy, is a better tight end than Colby Parkinson. The issue is, again, they're going to utilize a lot of 11 personnel sets, but Colby Parkinson is just going to be running full speed as a distractionary piece of the offense. Okay, where do we go on from here? We had a couple more super chats sent in. I greatly appreciate those of you who sent those in. Where is cool says the following. We took care of the Colby Parkinson. Nathan Gutierrez follows up with the following question. And Jersey style, thank you, appreciate it. It says 12-team super flex, full PPR, 6 point per touchdown. In round 1, 2, 3, should I go QB wide receiver or wide receiver QB? I'd probably go for the latter to those two. I'd take a quarterback in the first jersey, then a wide receiver in the second. Evaluate how many quarterbacks have been taken off the board. If you believe you need to address the third one or your second quarterback in the third round, you do so. Otherwise, you go ahead and take it in the fourth on the turn. Nathan Gutierrez, where art thou question? Until I can find your question in the chat, I will answer the other question that was sent via super chat via Right says 12 team half PPR ESPN double flex league. What's your what does it say? What's your opponent noon on trading? I think I don't know if opponent is it got auto corrected most likely. What's your whatever the heck on trading pick 20? I think it's what's your opinion on. Yeah, that's what it is. What's your opinion on trading pick 28 and 124 for pick 60 and 61? So you're going to trade a third round pick for a potential for 2 6th round picks, pretty much is what I'm hearing. Well, is it 6th round picks? Pick 60 is the end of the 5th round. So yeah, a third for 2 6ths. A third and a 10th for 2 6s. If you like the players that are going in that 6, sure, but otherwise I don't think you need it. Like, who's early 6th round? Like, let me see here. Let's go look around here. On ESPN, let's go look at ESPN ADPs. In a full PPR, let's go to 60. Aaron Jones, Ramondre, Dak, Tank Dell, George Pickens, Kyle Pitts, James Conner, Amari Cooper, David Montgomery. Like, if that's what you want to do, and you're like, hey, I don't need a third round pick, I'm just going to wait until the 6th round to take Tank Dell and David Montgomery, then okay, that's fine. But otherwise, I don't think you need to. I don't know if that's a necessary movement there, right? Michael sends in a super chat, says, how's my wide receiver room in a 12-team full PPR what does it say? No trades. Okay, interesting. 3 wide receivers, 1 flexer. Garrett Wilson, Pickens, Addison, Jaden Reed, J-Mo, Polk, and Odunze. I would have loved a little bit more wide receiver oomph. Like, your wide receiver 2 being Pickens scares me. Addison's injured already. Reed's a sketchy son of a gun because, again, there's so many wide receiver ones that could be, the guy in that team. I would have loved a little bit more. I would have loved one more stud besides Garrett Wilson there. Otherwise, the rest of the group, like Odunze, Pickens, Reed, Addison, J-Mo as your potential wide receiver 3, I'm happy with. But yeah, that's my only thoughts on that, Michael. Let me go back up and let me find Nathan Gutierrez's question. All right. Let's see here. He says, I'm in a super flex league. Actually, no, that's a way older question. Let me scroll down and see if there's any new questions that came in. Sleeper league, full PPR. Stroud, Rodgers. Okay, so you're pretty much Stroud. CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison, Ridley, Deontay Johnson. Pretty good wide receivers to say the least. Pollard, Pacheco, Zeke. Pitts is your tight end. Goddard. Listen, the only issue with this team, and it's not really an issue, it's just, can Pollard step up? If Pollard steps up, you're good to go. If he doesn't, then you might have to use some wide receiver depth to make a trade in the future, but that's it. I think you're in a really good spot. Also, did you say you had the Lions defense? That's not, you shouldn't. Don't have the Lions defense, guys, please. I don't think they're going to be great. They haven't been for fantasy for a while. Like, there are defenses that just give up a bunch of points but are still great in fantasy, like Indianapolis, in comparison to the Lions, who may not give up as many points but just don't get enough sacks, don't get enough interceptions, turnovers, defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns, etc. Draft strategy as the second pick in a PPR. CeeDee Lamb, congratulations. 2nd round, take a running back. 3rd round, take a wide receiver. 4th, take a tight end. 5th, best available. If it's a quarterback, so be it. Otherwise, best available. All right, guys. What does it say? You like 3rd round Debo? I don't mind it. I think that's probably where he should go. Just got your Patreon last week. Thank you, Darce. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tatum. Appreciate it. Okay, guys. I think that's where I'm going to call it. Been here for about an hour 40-ish. I do appreciate all of you guys coming through. I'm going to answer questions. Don't worry, I'm not turning it off. Every question that is on screen as it currently stands, I'm going to answer to the best of my ability. Just want to say I appreciate you guys coming through today. Tomorrow we will have our top 50 full PPR rankings, top 50 overall, which includes quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. So if you're drafting tomorrow, beautiful, perfect. Additionally, Monday it starts. Monday begins the season. So get ready. Running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterback rankings. Thursday live stream from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. prior to the game. So if you guys have a question regarding your lineup, please be sure to show up. It's Friday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. before the game. I'll be live streaming. Saturday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. live streaming. Sunday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. There is going to be 11 hours of 4 days, 11 hours of streaming on this channel. Get ready for week 1. It is just around the corner. Again, if you guys want my draft guide, my rankings, you can check out Patreon. You could check out, Underdog, depending on which one you guys want to support via. Greatly appreciate either of the two. As of right now, the easiest barrier of entry is probably this one, assuming, of course, you're eligible based on your location. Just one first-time deposit, minimum of $10. You'll get the draft guide. You'll get the associated rankings. You'll get rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. If that's something that doesn't interest you or you're potentially not eligible, Patreon's available. I answer unlimited questions. All of that jazz is in, all that information is in the description. Travel on over there. See what you get in exchange for your pledge of support. If that's something you're interested in, I appreciate all the support. Otherwise, no problem. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I produce the videos every single week. I live stream on Sundays so that I can answer questions regardless. So let's get to answering these questions. Then I'm going to go ahead and head out. Thank you again, guys. All right. So the question that was at the top of my list, but when I said that was, here we go. Perk Niners 1 says, Keeper League, Drake London in the 8th or Bijan in the 2nd? Keeper League, I'd probably just rather have Bijan there. If I can, I'd rather just have Bijan there. Because the chances are you might even be able to draft Drake London in the 3rd and still get him. You're not going to be able to, if you don't keep Bijan, you don't get him this year. Unless you have let's say, for example, you're like, Andrew, I have the first pick overall. If I keep Drake London in the 8th, I can draft Bijan number 1. Let's do that. Because then at that point, it's a better investment accordingly. Exclusive Jara says, opinion on a 10-man league in a full PPR. Murray, Mixon, Montgomery, Amon Puka, Amon-Ra Puka, Andrews, Rice. Yeah, listen, that's a solid team. Amon-Ra Puka is your first 2, following it up with a Mark Andrews. I mean, I don't know what your 3rd-round pick ended up being here. Was it Mixon? Was it Montgomery? I hope not. But Mark Andrews, pretty solid over there. That's the only concern I have. What was your 3rd-round pick here? And why isn't it apparent to me what it was? That's my only concern. Otherwise, solid looking team. ROOD says, okay, so he's talking to Jersey, no problem. Steve says, Burrow, Gibbs, HN, London, Schultz, Wilson. Okay, pretty solid team. Mostert is my bench as well with Evans. You have Evans on your bench, Neighbors on your bench. How do I fill PPR 10 team? How do I fill PPR 10 team? My first ever. Burrow, Gibbs, and HN. London, Wilson are your 2 starting wide receivers. Evans is your flex. I mean, Schultz is your tight end. Honestly, I might even look to trade one of these bench players for a better tight end. Okay. We're good to go. Tatum Town says, cannot express. Okay, again, I appreciate that, Tatum. Thank you for the kind words. Comics says, rate my half PPR 10-man league. Hurts, Bijan. Actually, you know what I'm going to do really quickly? Yeah, we're good. Let's go ahead and bring this down. Let's bring this up. Where am I at? I'm right here. Hurts, Bijan, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith. Okay, Pittman bench. Josh Jacobs, Bijan, fantastic. 2 top 10 running backs. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith. Garrett Wilson, again, we know he's a top, potential 8 wide receiver, even top 5 potentially. Jalen Hurts, you get an advantage. You get the stack there accordingly. Pittman is an incredible flex to have, along with Pickens, Ridley. I would have loved maybe one more running back that could be available earlier, but Chase Brown, Jonathan Brooks, they'll take a couple weeks to find themselves. Once they do, you'll be okay. Otherwise, pretty solid team there across the board. Njoku's probably the weakest part, which, again, at tight end is not a big deal. All right, let's see here. Dynasty, non-PPR. Dynasty questions I wouldn't even begin to try to answer at this point. Let's just focus on redraft as it stands. Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Zamir White, pick 1. I'd rather have Rashad White out of the bunch. Pick 1, full PPR, Debo Samuel, first pick in the 5th, or Devon Achane, first pick in the 2nd. I'd rather have Debo Samuel, first pick of the 5th. Josh Campbell, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, just made the Lamb and Kirk trade for Collins. Yeah, you're good to go. Listen, the value at which you get for trading, dude, You get a second, third, and fourth round pick for a first. Like Kirk, I think is irrelevant to me at this point. The 3-for-1 is really just like the key in. Congrats. I mean, really, that is a ridiculous trade. Oops, scrolling back. Where the heck did it go? 10 team, hey, okay, let's see here. We had a question that came in. Here we go. Trying to trade Neighbors or Rice for Andrews? You could, but of the two, it's probably a Rice trade in that scenario. Don't drink too many brewskis before drafting. Yeah, tell everybody else, brother. I'm locked in when I'm drafting. Opinion on Tank Dell being my wide receiver too. In a 10-team league, I think it's sketchier, but it could pan out. Again, if he's really going to be the best friend target of Stroud, which we're kind of thinking he might be, he may end up being really like a top 20 wide receiver by the end of the season. Tatum Town says, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Keeper League, Drake London. Okay, we took care of that one again. Hey, Andrew, should I drop Kansas City defense for Cincinnati in week 1? Yes, I would. I have number 2 waiver priority. And if you're going to, no, do not waste waiver priority on it. That's the thing. I would not waste waiver priority. So if in fact you just wait until waivers run, then pick them up after. Full PPR, 12-man league, 9th pick. Saquon, Taylor, or AJ Brown. I would take AJ Brown, and then I'd let one of these running backs return to me in the second round, regardless of who it ends up being. Nicholas, thank you very much for the super chat. Says keep Anthony Richardson in the 5th or Breece Hall in the 2nd in a Superflex full PPR league. I have the 4th pick. I think it's a matter of what you anticipate to see. From my perspective, in a Superflex format, I probably keep Richardson in the 5th and maybe have a chance of getting Breece Hall at pick 4. Otherwise, if you don't think you can get Breece Hall there, I guess you can keep him in the 2nd. But in my mind, I really do highly value that potential of keeping that quarterback in the 5th where you would never be able to get him in comparison to Breece Hall, where going in the 2nd is pretty much where he's going to go regardless. So I'd rather get the advantage of the discount on Richardson. Lineup is Hurts. I already looked at this team, right? Kyron, Connor. No, we didn't. Amon, Debo, Andrews, Higgins, Montgomery, bench, Tua, Worthy. Okay. Connor as your RB2 is not a big deal, especially considering you have David Montgomery. I think this is again, typically 10-team leagues are going to be stacked. As your second wide receiver, Debo is fine, but I would have loved at least, I guess Deontay Johnson's okay. I would have loved at least one more, but you took the positional advantages at tight end and quarterback, which I really can't complain about. Anonymous, yes, we are back. Okay, guys. That's it. That's where I'm going to call it. I do appreciate y'all. Thank you for coming out today, supporting the channel. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with top 50 overall rankings. Appreciate it. And I think we are good to go. Is there anything I miss? Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? All right. Tatum Town says, I missed my answer. What was your question again? Jameer or Ramondre or Zamir? I'd rather have Gibbs. Gibbies. Yeah, absolutely Gibbs. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm cueing the music, and I'm heading out. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.